All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Scream Sister, your podcast dedicated to Spanish language horror and spooky books of the same kind of vein. My name is Valerie.
I'm Veronica.
And this is our Christmas morn episode, or, our holiday episode. So to those of you who celebrate, Merry Christmas. Ron, have you been engaging in holiday-esque events, movies, outings, things like that?
We decorated the inside of the house, of course, and, been doing some Christmas shopping. Last night, Robert and I, it's kind of been a tradition for the last, 3 years now, maybe, where he and I and just Sophia head downtown to kind of look at the lights on the Riverwalk. And there's a place down there where they make hot chocolate, and they make it by warming up the milk and melting actual chocolate shavings in there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really, really good. So we did that last night.
So for folks who don't know, San Antonio Riverwalk, because I don't know, I've never been during the holiday season. What is it that they do? They just decorate the Riverwalk or what?
Yeah, there's lights in all the trees, and all the river boats are decorated in Christmas. And so, yeah, it's just nice. It's just something. And Sophia likes to pretend she's an only child for a night.
She's like, I'm living my dream. Have you been watching any holiday movies so far or
not yet? We have them all. Something Sophia said. So we're in line at Voodoo Donuts last night, and she's scanning the code for the menu for Voodoo Donuts. And mind you, the scan for the code is on the menu board. So I said, Sophia, why are you scanning it? The menu's right in front of you. So I don't have to look up. That's this generation.
What are some of the holiday movies that you guys go for?
Well, we always save A Christmas Story is pretty much plays over and over again on TNT every year. And so that's on for Christmas Day. We just watch it over and over again. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, of course. Yep. I also like to see the original Miracle on 34th Street. Although I will watch the remake with, what are those people's names?
When did the original come out?
In the 30s, I want to say, or maybe the 40s. It stars Maureen O'Hara, and a very young Natalie Wood plays the daughter. So
I don't think I've ever seen, the original.
And then Elf has become a new thing, and White Christmas with Bing Crosby. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, we also, have you ever seen this one? I think it was just a Netflix. It's an animated movie. It's called Klaus.
Oh, yeah.
Klaus.
Yeah. The kids have watched that one.
There's that one dark-haired girl that I always think of you when I see her.
I'll have to pay attention. I've only seen it the one time, because normally we'll put stuff on for them so that we can be busy doing other stuff. So I never get to sit and watch the stuff with them.
And watch it. It's good.
I've seen enough parts of it that I get the general storyline, but yeah, I haven't been able to sit and watch the whole thing.
Sit and watch the whole thing. See if you can spot the one little dark-haired, though, because there's the redheaded family and the dark-haired family. The one little dark-haired girl that always reminds me of you.
Well, why? Now I'm curious.
Why? Just watch and see if you can find her. See if you can pick her out.
Well, I was remarking to Alex the other day because, normally I will slowly work through holiday movies into the rotation, kind of the same way I do with Halloween movies, but there are fewer of them for me at Christmas time than obviously Halloween-esque movies. But I've been falling asleep on the couch. I'll put a movie on with every intention of getting through it, and then I pass out halfway through. So I have yet to finish a holiday movie yet this season. But we do National Lampoons. We've watched White Christmas before in the past. I finally, one Christmas, I wanted to see what all of the hype was about. So I finally watched Meet Me in St. Louis, which was fun. It's, what's her face? Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. What's her name? Gardner.
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. Yeah. So what is it? Judy
Garland.
Garland. Yes.
Judy Garland.
Now I'm blanking on the movie. Meet Me in St. Louis. Yeah. So it's a fun movie. The first time I watched it, and I liked it. And then as far as I know everybody in the horror community gets real big on Christmas movies that have kind of a scary element to them. So I know people talk about Gremlins as being a holiday-esque movie. I forget what year it came out in the 80s, but I guess because that movie kind of it starts at Christmas time, right? Or is the whole of the movie taking place during Christmas time? It's been so long since I've seen Gremlins.
I think it's all around the holiday Christmas season. I've only seen it the one time back when it first came out.
When it first came out.
The Phoebe, whatever her last name was, the actress, the girl in the movie, she hates Christmas because her father disappeared
Phoebe
around
Cates.
Christmas. And
Phoebe Cates.
Yeah, Phoebe Cates. There you go.
Okay, overview. Came out in 1984. Yeah. Gremlins is a
Yeah.
1984 American comedy horror film. So yeah, that's a very popular one that circulates I also like Bill Murray's Scrooged, which I don't know that it constitutes horror. I think it's just more straight comedy, but it's got some grisliness to it. So I like it as an
Oh
annual
yeah,
holiday
and
movie.
A Christmas Carol, the Muppets Christmas
The
Carol.
Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah, we've watched that one too.
Some version of the Christmas Carol movie.
Yeah, that's an example of something that we'll put on to distract our kids while we do stuff. So I never get to sit and just watch it, which I would like to do because I enjoy it. So guys, we are in this is our last episode of 2023, which is a huge achievement. Veronica and I started this podcast in July, like the end of July. And so for us to make it this far and we're still going and improving, I would like to think episode to episode, getting better at getting a feel for this. So it's cool to know that we have accumulated this is our 12th episode. This is going to be our 12th episode. And we are recording this a little ahead of Christmas time.
And if we're not improving, don't let us know. Just let us live in our delusion. Please and thank you.
Yes. If you are ready to give us a 5-star rating, please do. And if you're not, then keep that to yourself. That's fine. But yes, so Veronica and I had decided we were going to go really, really lighthearted on ourselves this month and focus on comedy horror films. The first one we looked at was El Conde, which we talked about last episode. Not so much haha funny, more of your, black dark comedy. This week we are talking about 2023, another film that came out this year. So both of these films that we're looking at in the month of December are new releases that came out this year. And today we're talking about 2023's Satanic Hispanics, which is a horror anthology that has 5 directors at the helm. And so I'm going to list off those directors. Those are Alejandro Brugués, Mike Mendez, Gigi Sal Guerrero, Eduardo Sanchez, Demian Rugna, who it sounds like that is the person who directed When Evil Lurks, which also came out this year. Was it you?
I want to watch that one, but it's kind of expensive to rent right now. So
yeah. I was like, I thought it was you that mentioned that to me. But yeah, I've heard good things about When Evil Lurks. So that might be one that we look at. So, and I wanted to also talk about the writers listed on this project. So if you go to imdb.com, the writers listed on this project are Alejandro Mendez, Lino K. Villa, and Pete Barnstrom, who we have an episode with. So if you guys, we'll link it for you in our show notes. But if you did not listen to our episode earlier this year where I interviewed Pete Barnstrom, who's a writer for Satanic Hispanics, then go check out that episode. So there are a bunch of people. What it is, it's an anthology where it's like these 5 different directors. So you're getting like the main storyline and then like 4 different shorts woven into that main storyline. So there's a bunch of people in all of these shorts, or not shorts, but segments, film segments. So I'm not going to be able to name them all, but I do want to highlight a few folks. The Chapter 1, which I think is called The Traveler, stars Efren Ramirez, who people will recognize from Napoleon Dynamite. Veronica, did you ever see that movie?
No.
Yeah, I never saw it either. We're not cool. It was like the movie to see when it came out, and I kind of, for that reason, rebelled against it. I'm like, you know what? Everybody's talking about it. I'm not going to see it. And then it just turned into like, I just never saw it. Yeah, he's in it. He's great. He's much beloved. Then you've got Patricia Velasquez, who Ron, I don't know if you'll recognize her, but so Patricia Velasquez was a supermodel at one point in the...
Who was she in the movie?
She plays the vampire's wife or partner, spouse, girlfriend. I don't know.
Significant other,
yeah. But so she was in The Mummy with Brendan Fraser back in the day. And then she was also in the American version of La Llorona, The Curse of La Llorona or whatever. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, she's a great actress. And I think she also has a modeling career that was, she was a working model in like the 80s and 90s. And then you've got is it Grunberg or Grunberg?
Grunberg.
Yeah.
I know him from Lost.
Yes. Well, and Heroes. Do you remember him?
I only saw like a few episodes of Heroes. I do remember that he was on it, but I thought
you were super into that show.
No, I never really got into that story.
Okay. Well, yes. So Greg Grunberg from Heroes, Hemke Madera, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Gabriela Ruiz, and Jacob Vargas, and many, many more, but those are just a few. So I'm going to say a little blurb, and then we'll get into talking about the film, just know come ahead that there are spoilers to this movie, or that we'll be talking about, big time spoilers. And I know this is a newer movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, maybe go rent it. It's available for rent off of like Amazon Prime, I believe. And so you can watch it and then you can come back to this episode. Here's a little blurb about it from Epic Pictures. When police raid a house in El Paso, they find it full of dead Latinos and only one survivor, known as the Traveler. He is taken to the police station for questioning, and there he recounts tales of horrors from his life, chronicling portals leading to other worlds, mythical beings, demons, and the undead. He speaks. I've just like forgone punctuation in this reading that I'm doing. He speaks of legends from Latin America. Satanic Hispanics tells stories by top Latin filmmakers that showcase the skills of Hispanic talent both on and off screen. I don't know how we want to dive in here because I don't know if it makes sense to talk about the film as a whole or segment by segment. I'm sure we'll probably do both. But yeah, Ron, like this was dramatically different from anything we've looked at since we began this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, much more just different, more lighthearted fare than anything we've looked at. But what did you think? What did you come away with after watching it? When did you watch it?
And
Last night?
actually watched it Friday because I forgot we were doing this Sunday instead of Saturday.
Okay.
So I watched it Friday evening, but I knew nothing about this movie. In fact, up until the last podcast when you mentioned that it was an anthology, I didn't even know it was an anthology. And then I was kind of a little bit worried because I typically, for the same reason I don't like literary collections of short stories, I typically don't like anthologies just because the stories are so short that I always feel like I don't really have time to connect with the characters, and I'm usually left like the stories never feel complete, which is not a bad thing if it leaves you wanting more. So I went into this kind of a little bit worried, but I had no expectations, so I can report that I liked it. I enjoyed it. Honest truth. Some segments I liked better than others, and we can, maybe talk later about what our individual, if we have a favorite or which one we enjoyed the most. But I liked it, and I liked the way there was kind of a story that was kind of the connective tissue between the different. How many segments were there? 4?
So there's
5?
because there's like the main story, but then there's like 4 different stories woven through it.
I liked that there was that main connective story that's kind of leading you into the other segments. And I liked that it was kind of like, it was a mixture of tone to it.
Yeah.
Like there'd be a dark one, and then there'd be kind of a goofy, fun one, and then another kind of dark one. And then, so they kind of mixed it up. So it wasn't like tonally the same all throughout. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought all the actors did really well. I can't say there was anybody in there that felt like they didn't quite fit talent wise. I thought I thought they all did great.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised. So I'm glad that I'm going out on a high note with this.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I had a freaking blast. I thought it was hilarious. I thought on the whole, it's a fun collection of films, like you said, that for the most part, like work together really, really well. So, I like them all. And yeah, we can talk about ones in particular that we liked. Having not seen Napoleon Dynamite and having not seen any of his other work, this was my first time to see Efren Ramirez, and I thought he did a really great job as sort of like the narrator, kind of guiding us through this anthology. And so, I mean, some of his scenes with Greg Grunberg's character, because Greg Grunberg plays like a detective, interrogating him in the questioning room. Some of their scenes were just like provided some of the funniest moments to me because they just thought they worked so well off of each other.
Let's talk about that main connective story first, the Traveler, and then we can hit the individual segments and kind of give our thoughts on.
Yes, because there is a line I want to make sure. So where the film opens, like it says in the blurb I said, the film opens where it's like you've got all of these law enforcement officials entering what looks like a warehouse or some kind of abandoned building. It's like all bathed in dark. There's no lights. And so they're finding the bodies of all of these people that are all Latino people, and they've all been murdered. And then I think there's like one part where it's like one of the law enforcement people says,
this is set in El Paso, by the way.
It starts in El Paso.
The main story.
When the film opens, you've got that going on. And one of the officers goes, "We're going to need more body bags." And I thought that was such a great, that's "we're going to need a bigger boat" line of 2023. After that, that's when we meet the Traveler.
So the massacre of all these Latin people who apparently were undocumented or didn't have any sort of verifying paperwork there. The Traveler lets us know that this particular event wasn't some sort of like supernatural thing. It was just, what did he say? It was a cartel, some sort of cartel business.
Cartel stuff. Yeah, that went sour.
But he's chained up, so he attempts to chop off his own hand to get away. He's just that desperate to get away. They sit him down at the police station. His hand is wrapped up, and we've got Grunberg as one of the detectives, and then another. What's that actress's name? The other.
I didn't catch it. I didn't get
detective. But they're interviewing him, and so slowly he kind of starts peeling back the story of who he is. In fact, we don't find out like really his backstory until like almost the very end of the movie. But there's another police officer that interrupts the interrogation at some point and kind of shows all these pictures of this man and previous names that he's gone under, but they're spread out over time. And of course, his appearance doesn't change. He doesn't age. So there's that mystery of, well, exactly who is he? They empty his belongings on the table, and so they're kind of picking out these different items from his belongings, and each item is what kind of leads into the stories, the different segments of the anthology that we get. There's like a bullet, there's a vial of blood,
a finger,
which I thought would have been as a policeman, that would have been the first thing I picked up to say, what is this?
Let's talk about the finger for a minute.
Yes, but yeah, it was just, I thought that was just done really well. And of course, we come to find out that he is, what was he, like 500 and something?
He's, I don't know.
590 something years old. He is originally from the actual Aztec
that's right. Yeah.
Of Tenochtitlan. He keeps telling the police early on that he has, they have 90 minutes to let him go, or else they're all going to be dead. Come to find out that he's pretty much been on the run, or trying to stay one step ahead of San La Muerte, who is the figure out of Colombian mythology. He says that he's somebody that you go to when you need a favor. And back when he was living his original life in Tenochtitlan, his wife and child were kind of slated or selected for sacrifice. And so he went to San La Muerte and, made a deal, my life for theirs. Then, of course, when the time came, apparently he chickened out and he went on the lam. He's been running from San La Muerte ever since. I want to know what happened then, if he reneged on his end of the deal, what happened to his wife and child, but they don't ever say. But yeah, so that's why he's just always, I thought that must just be an exhausting life, because he said he's usually just like 12 hours ahead.
Yeah. He's like, I'm never more than like 12 hours ahead of San La Muerte.
Must be an exhausting life. I'd be ready to die. I'd be like, hey, I'm over here, San La Muerte, come get me. And
then so from there, he kind of takes us into, which I don't even remember. Like as we're moving through all these movies, I don't even remember what some of his segues are that leads us into these stories. So I don't even know how we get to the first short film.
They show him a picture. They're showing him pictures, and he, asking him, do you know any of these things? He's like, no, I don't know these people. I just met them 4 hours ago and then he sees one picture and he goes, wait, I might know this one, but I don't know if I met him before or after he died. And so that picture of whoever is the guy from the first segment, the Rubik's Cube dude.
So then we get into the first segment, which is called También lo vi, which I guess means like I saw it too, or I also saw it.
I saw him too.
I saw him too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get into our first of our I keep wanting to say short films. I guess we wouldn't call, I don't know what we would call them. The first of the
segment
chapters. Yes, the first of the chapters.
Chapter
so what
1.
did you think of that one? What did you think? So this one is the one by, I don't know who directed what. I want to say this one is Demian Rugna, but I don't know for sure. So maybe I should not say. But anyway, what did you think of that one?
It was not the first jump scare.
Yes.
For me, because it was going along, and I actually kind of forgot for a minute that it was supposed to be horror-y. And so I wasn't, because he's this Rubik's Cube savant dude FaceTiming with his sister, just trying to talk him into going to Japan for, I guess, a Rubik's Cube competition. And so it's just kind of normal talk. Well, there was that one beginning where he's doing some kind of weird thing with his phone, and he's trying to show the pizza boy, do you see it? Do you see it? And he doesn't see anything.
And I didn't see it, and I was like, what is it? I don't see it.
We as the audience don't see anything, but he's just doing this weird pattern with his flashlight on his
phone. Yeah.
And then just kind of goes into like, he's making his dinner, he's talking with his sister, and then he starts getting a whiff of something unpleasant, and he's kind of sniffing around, looking, and looks under the table, and there's just, I don't even know how to describe what was under there.
Like half of a corpse, like I don't even know.
Contorted. Yeah. I jumped and kind of gave out a little cry, because I would kind of been lured into not expecting anything.
And that's really like you said, it's the first legit jump scare of the film, and you're not really expecting it, obviously. And then what I kind of made note of that really struck me is like this is also where we get the first taste of like how at least some of the humor is going to play out in this film. Moments that I would call like absurd, and so the absurdity of the moment is what's funny. So in that scene where he sees this corpse under his table, he runs out of the room, he flees, and then he like slowly works his way back into the room, and then he throws a blanket over it. That'll do it. He throws a blanket over it and then takes a phone call. And so just like in that moment, that kind of made me crack up a little bit because it's just like that's such a funny.
I'd been out the door. In fact,
Yeah,
I wrote
it's
that
like-
down. I wrote that down. Run.
It's just the idea that he's like, I'm gonna throw this blanket over it. It's okay now. And oh, I better get this phone call. Nothing more important right now than taking this phone call. Yeah, I thought that broke up the tension really well, and kind of you got the sense of like what kind of humor or what kind of level of humor we were going to be playing with.
Mhm.
I had some questions coming out of this one. I'm not sure.
So did I.
Okay.
But so before this jump scare, before he sees that whatever thing under his table, he had called over, I guess, a
Like
man
a
that does a podcast.
yes.
To come over, and he's trying to show him, he's doing his little thing with his flashlight on his phone and saying, do you see it? And do you see it? And the podcast dude seems like he sees something, but he doesn't say anything. He just kind of makes a beeline for the door and he leaves. And so the guy, which I don't know, did we ever get his name?
Gustavo? I wanna
Gustavo.
say? Yeah.
He's kind of like, okay, whatever. And he doesn't know why the guy left because he doesn't say anything. And he's apparently been trying to call him and leaving him messages just to kind of say, hey, what happened? After the jump scare, he shows up. The podcast dude shows up at the house again. As it turns out, what he saw when he had been there earlier was his mother. And so as soon as he saw her, he said that he left because his mother was in a nursing home. He went to the nursing home and found out that his mother had died. So how did he see his mother, who had died at the nursing home, in Gustavo's home? This is what really kind of grossed me out when he goes and he looks under the blanket, because that thing is still moving.
Yeah.
So it's not dead.
It's not gone anywhere.
It's still moving. He uncovers it and then he hugs it and starts crying because it's his mother.
Like he's talking to it like it's his mother. Yeah.
Yeah. And like he's apologizing to his mother, I guess, for not having left her alone too long or whatever. I was like, don't touch it. Don't touch it.
When it doesn't do anything either, like I was like, it's gonna attack you, but then it just like accepts a hug. I don't know.
Well, it didn't have arms, I don't think. And then of course Gustavo, I guess, he's telling him, dude, that's not your mother anymore, at least. And so he starts doing that light pattern thing, which
we come to learn is so we come to learn.
It's kind of like the algorithm for solving the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, like he sees patterns and everything. And so he through doing this, and I don't know what compelled him to even try it in the first place, but somehow in doing this, he opens a portal. Then he's doing that in the dining area while the podcaster's hugging the corpse. And then there's like there's an explosion of blood and the podcaster's gone. I guess like the podcaster got obliterated or something. I'm not sure what happened, or maybe got sucked into the portal with the corpse and the podcaster are both gone now, and it's just a bloodbath in the dining room. So I interpreted that as like he got sucked into whatever portal that thing came from. At that point, Gustavo gets really freaked out. He runs out of the house and gets a call from his sister. And this is where I get confused, because the sister is saying that corpse thing that he had sent her pictures of, she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's you.
Yeah.
And so I that's where I got confused. And then where the film ends is
he sees himself. Like he by this point he has run out of the house, or he's left the house. He's looking at it from, I guess, the street, and he sees himself bloodied inside the house.
Yeah.
And
looking more sinister than before. And I'm just like, what? I don't understand. Like, I didn't get it, but I thought it was cool.
And then it ends where he's back in the hall, like back in the first scene of that segment where he's with the pizza guy trying to show him the pattern. So I don't know, did any of that happen? Was it all...
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Was it in his head? Did he... I don't know what happened.
Yeah, but it
was interesting, but I'm not sure what happened.
It was very interesting, and the humor there was very subtle and kind of...
to pick your friend's Pete's brain and say, what happened? I need answers.
So then we get into the next chapter, the next film segment, which is Pete's segment. So El Vampiro is I believe the one that he worked on. If I don't know this for sure. He didn't tell me, but if I had to guess, I would say that that's the one he worked on. And I thought that one was just like straight funny. It was hilarious. I loved it. It does feature. This is the one that features Patricia Velasquez. She's excellent. I think the guy who plays the vampire, Hemke Medera. I think that's right, Hemke Medera. He's fantastic. He's hilarious. I thought it was great. What did you think of this one?
This was my favorite segment. And this is what I thought and had hoped El Conde was going to be, because it's just so over the top, campy. Goodness. It's just fun. I laughed out loud like several times. So this was definitely by far my favorite. I was rooting for them.
I know. I
mean, even though it starts off with him killing a whole bar full of, everybody at this Halloween party, I was like rooting for them to live. And, but yeah, I thought I just cracked up laughing several times.
I thought the gore.
Be the bat. Be the bat. Be the bat.
And then he's like going down the street on a scooter. No, I thought that the choice of music, you had like music very reminiscent of like the 60s or like the 70s, probably more 60s. But I thought that was really nice. I thought that the level of gore and blood, very kind of your classic, probably. And we didn't talk about this when I talked to Pete, but probably very much an homage to some of the amazing B movies of the horror genre. So I thought it was really great. I was rooting for them too at the end, and I was
I want t-shirt merch.
What would you want it to say?
Be the bat would be one the bat thing. I also, the other lines I thought were funny, like when she rescues him in the car and she's like, "Is something burning?" He says, "It's my flesh." I just thought it was funny. And then of course at the very end when they're in the dumpster trying to hide from the sun and it's not working, he's all like, "This cannot be the way I go. It's so unbecoming." And using the Tide pen to try to get the blood stains out of his shirt.
When he whips out the Tide pen the first time, I was just like, "Oh God!"
It was just funny. I loved it.
And I don't remember like what the traveler because he was talking about. I think he was talking about some unexplained string of murders they had in the area way back when. And that's how he leads into this story about El Vampiro. The guy was going, and so like the scene, like on this night, which I'm guessing is Halloween night, when he can like party and be out in the open. And so he's going on this blood-sucking spree. And then later on, he's on the run from the cops and he's like slaughtered this trio of clowns who were giving him a hard time, teenagers dressed up as clowns or whatever, who were giving him a hard time. And they threw a bunch of eggs at his shirt or something. And so then he kills them all. And then these cops stumble upon him and they think he's just sort of person dressed up for Halloween doing some sort of scary thing. And they're like, this holding up like the bloody head of one of the clowns, like, "This isn't even realistic, man. Like you gotta put more into it." Oh, and so like, I'm like remembering things as I'm talking about it. So then once the cops realize that this is not a stage scene, this is real, they're freaking out and they point guns on him. And then he's just going back and forth trying to mesmerize both of them and put them under his spell. And he apparently can't do that for more than one person at a time. So he's just going back and forth. But then we get into, so Ron, take us through the next one.
I think it's Nahuales.
Yeah.
Just to kind of run you through it, the sequence of events, because I know the sequence of events that happen. I just don't know why any of it happens. But it starts off with a man kind of leading a horse. There's a body slung over the back of the horse. You keep hearing like these animalistic noises that it seems like he's afraid of and running from. He gets to what appears to be his home. He puts the body in, I don't know, a storage shed or garage. I'm not sure what it was. And then
we don't know who the body is.
We don't know who the body is. We never find out, that I heard anyway, who the body is. He goes into the house. He's all freaked out. He makes a phone call, which apparently is an agent from the CIA, because again, the wonderful US CIA can't keep its nose out of anything. He's trying to arrange what sounded to me like an extraction, like for the CIA to come get him out. We learn that the man's wife and children apparently all died of gunshot wounds. Don't know by who or when. Something about an election. He mentions something about an election.
See, I was not following this storyline at all.
Well, yeah, it's very confusing. And so then
I was trying.
This male figure appears in the house that's making animalistic sounds. He runs outside. He kind of there's like a group of 3 or 4, I'm not sure, men that all come and kind of abduct him, and he take him away to this campsite, which is where the man comes to. The men all look like they're covered in like dried mud. There's this old woman
who we come to learn is Madre Tierra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what they call her.
And I don't really know what happened in this segment, to be honest. I mean, they end
Was
up killing him. She slits his throat. She
yes.
talks a lot about. I don't really know. I don't know how to describe it. It's gory. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's very. This one's much more grisly
This was
than
by
the
far
previous.
the
And so,
grossest segment.
and so that's the one. Like that's what I kind of. I don't know that I can talk intelligently about the plot because I don't know that I was following it, but it felt much heavier than the other stories that we had seen
Hmm.
up to that point. So it felt dramatically different. And the only thing I can really talk like I thought visually it was very cool to look at. So if we can talk, I'm going to nerd out a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the camera work because and maybe this is why I was not so focused on the plot because I was so focused on the camera work. Once the men kidnap this dude whose name is De La Cruz, I believe. So they take De La Cruz to wherever it is they take him to, where he encounters Madre Tierra, who kind of looks like a bruja, like just like what we would think of when we think of that in like stories and fables and things like that. She just looks like a witch of the woods kind of.
Hmm.
So anyway, they take her there, but so they take him there, and all of the camera scenes are kind of cuts of like, I think the intention was to sow disorientation and confusion. So you're kind of seeing it from De La Cruz's point of view. Like he's catching bits and spurts of like sky, trees, things like that, like in and out of consciousness. So that's kind of what you're getting. So I thought this camera work was really interesting.
I looked up Nahuales, and it's like people that can transform into kind of like I don't think spirit animal is quite the right phrase, but that kind of like they can transform into an animal that kind of represents, I guess spirit animal is
Their
not so
being.
bad.
Yeah. And she
Yeah.
does, like Madre Tierra does kind of transform into what looks like sort of like a wolf or some sort of.
So, because she also mentioned Olmecs, the Olmec culture, and Olmecs, and I'm looking this up, people, I did not know this off the top of my head, were the earliest known major Mesoamerican civilization. They occupied the tropical lowlands of the modern day Mexican states of Veracruz and Tabasco, and they basically went extinct, just kind of disappeared.
Why did they go extinct? Like what was like colonizers?
Scholars have yet to determine the cause of the eventual extinction of the Olmec culture. The depopulation was probably the result of very serious environmental changes that rendered the region unsuited for large groups of farmers, in particular changes to the river environment that the Olmec depended upon for agriculture. I will say this, that I did come away from that segment thinking that it had something to do with like nature, especially because the last shot is with the animalistic sounds, the waterfall, the river, and I was like, and the maybe violations against nature that man does. I just wasn't sure like how the man, what was his name, De La Cruz, what he had to do, like what was his role, why did they single him out to kill him?
Because like, so at some point she's talking about, and I'm very much paraphrasing, I got the sense that she was talking about by the way, guys, like normally Veronica, like sometimes these episodes are us just sort of working out what we understood about movies and not necessarily so much giving our takes as it is just like, hey, let's get some clarity here. So yeah, I got the sense that it's like she's talking about this man De La Cruz might have been responsible for deaths of her people, of their people, maybe, perhaps. I don't know in what way he was responsible, or maybe he played a part in it because he was apparently working with the CIA. I don't know. So then at the end of the film, you remember how like she's there with the men that are part of her community. They find buried people that had been walled up.
Was it people? I couldn't even make out what was in the wall.
That's what I thought they were. And Alex watched. I made Alex watch this with me. I was like, "You're gonna watch this with me." And so like he got the impression that it was like people with bags over their heads. So that it's like they had been killed and walled up inside of wherever they are, because she's crying as they uncover these people. And I guess like I interpreted that as like she's mourning because those were their people and like he had played a role in their deaths, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know for sure.
It was an interesting segment. I just wasn't sure like the why of anything that was happening in it.
Well, and I made an interesting observation. I wanted to talk a little bit about blood and blood consistency in horror films, Ron, because in most of the film, you've got blood that is like brighter in color, which my brain and probably everyone's brains probably registers as like a little bit sensationalized and bordering on funny because it's just so like it's it's deliberate, gratuitous blood, gratuitous gore. It's over the top and it's very like bright, flashy blood. Versus in this particular segment, the Nahuales segment, it's very dark. It looks thicker, which I think in my brain I register as being more grisly, more graphic and horrific to look at. So like when she slits De La Cruz's throat, like it's a very grisly scene.
Oh, and then that one guy that kept licking on his head, I was like,
yes, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And it's really funny because it made me think of like Alfred Hitchcock in particular. So I'm going to little fun trivia for folks here. This is from Screen Rant about Hitchcock and his infamous movie Psycho. So although Hitchcock easily could have utilized the typical recipe of fake red blood, which many of the studios were using at that time, he found that it didn't suit Psycho's black and white medium. So Psycho, and I forget exactly when Psycho came out, but a very famous Hitchcock movie, black and white, Norman Bates, all of that. Anyone who knows any level of scary movies knows Psycho. So it didn't fit the medium. So instead, he used watered down Hershey's chocolate syrup for the blood in Psycho's shower scene. So yeah, my observations about blood and blood consistency in films. I find that if like the film's using bright, flashy blood, the veil of suspending one's disbelief kind of goes away a little bit versus when it's like thick and syrupy, like in Nahuales, it registered more real for me and more gritty and just horrifying.
This one was
the darkest
disturbing.
one.
Like I was like not wanting to watch.
Yeah, it was the darkest one out of the bunch. So this is where I get lost a little bit. The next chapter is the Hammer of Zanzibar one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did you like
it? In between the Nahuales
was there one in between? That's what I couldn't remember.
That's when we kind of get the traveler's backstory because he has a bullet. He has that sacred bullet in his belongings, and he talks about how that sacred bullet is made up of sawdust from the cross that Christ was.
See, I didn't get that. I missed that.
On. That it was forged from the nails that were used to nail him. And this bullet is the only thing that can kill, or maybe not kill, but the only weapon that will have any sort of effect on San La Muerte. And this is when it's not a chapter, it's just this is the little bit an extended bit where we find out the traveler's backstory. We find out that he's
and he says
several
something
centuries old.
He says something about like, but it's of no use because there's no weapon that can shoot it anymore.
Yeah, the gun that can shoot it was lost like years and years ago. How it came to be in the evidence locker of the El Paso Police Department, I don't know, but conveniently they have the gun. And I'm not sure, I don't remember how this leads into the last segment, the Hammer of Zanzibar.
So we get into the final segment, which is, and I don't even know what chapter we're on at this point, but it's the Hammer of Zanzibar story, which I thought was really, really freaking funny. And especially coming out of Nahuales, which was, like we said, the heaviest of the film, of the films. This one was just funny and dumb. But I mean, I don't say dumb as in like not good, but just, funny and goofy.
Yeah, it was a group of, I guess they were making a documentary or
like
something.
Friends, they were shooting something.
In Cuba, they witnessed some ceremony that was supposed to be secret. The main character from this last segment, he recorded it. One by one, all these friends were part of that trip that witnessed that ceremony. They've all been dying in specific
something about
ways.
They're getting possessed or something like that. Yeah. Let's start with he's going to meet his friend. That's where it opens. He's going to meet the last living friend for drinks or something. And he confronts her as, I believe that you are possessed by this entity.
King Zombie,
which is a cool name, King Zombie. I believe that you're possessed by him. I believe that you're the last one. They have this, they start having their face off. But we see in flashback when he went to go visit somebody named El Jefe, who runs a shop, like some sort of I gather like an antiquity shop or something, goes to see El Jefe with one of his friends who was alive at the time, Miguel. El Jefe presents something that they can use to defeat the King Zombie. And the thing to know about the Hammer of Zanzibar, it is like the queer story featured in this anthology, which is very fun and cool. And so as he's telling this story, I was thinking in my head, I was like, it's going to be a penis. Like that's what it's going to be. He's like, I'm going to open up this box.
Demon dick.
I'm going to open up this box and show you the only thing that can truly. And I was like, it's going to be a penis. I was not expecting it to look like that. So I was just cracking up. So I don't know how to like talk about it without like, you guys just have to go see it.
And there's a song.
There's a song.
It needs to be on Spotify.
It's such like we were cracking up. It's such a goofy way to finish things out. So
Alex watched the whole movie with you, or not just that?
He watched the whole movie because I told him, I was like, I think I've said this before on the show, but for anybody who, Alex, my husband, is not into scary movies at all, really. He does not like being scared. And so, but he'll do a horror comedy. Like, he'll watch the Evil Dead films anytime. So I told him, I was like, this is a horror comedy. And he's like, that's what you said about El Conde. But I think this is going to be more like classically horror comedy. Like we can count on some laughs. And so it was fun. He had a good time. The last half of the film, we finally get to see San
San la Muerte.
San la Muerte, which I had been waiting to see the whole movie because that's what's on like the movie poster. I was like, where is this creature? I want to see it. And so finally at the end we get to see it. And I was just like, this is amazing. It looks great.
It was very reminiscent. It reminded me of the scene from The Matrix when Neo and Trinity kind of enter that building. They're all dressed in black head to toe. So San la Muerte's got a black hat on that kind of obscures his face, which is just kind of like this almost skull-like, deathly pale. He's got a long black duster that goes almost to the floor, just head to toe in black. Like everybody should have looked at this man the minute he walked in the door.
Right. And in slow motion. Yeah, kind of.
So he's walking in. One of the police, of course, tries to tell him, you can't just walk in back to the back section. And so he just he never says anything, right? He never said a word.
He doesn't say anything.
He just kind of like point his hand at someone, and he caused that policeman to just start shooting, people that were in the lobby, other police officers, and then turn the gun on himself and shoot himself. So he did this several times. Anytime anyone tried to kind of like bar his way, he was just kind of having all these cops shoot the people around them and then shoot themselves. So, of course, then it flashes back to the interrogation room where the two detectives and the traveler are. And by this time, the detectives are freaking out. They're, I guess, finally believing the traveler. So they give him the gun with the sacred bullet in it. The traveler goes out
and he says something. What does he say? We live
something, I'll meet you in hell, or was it something? Am I making that up?
No, I think you're making that up. No, I thought it was like we live by the grace of, I want to know something about we live.
Grace to live or
something about grace. I don't know. I feel like it was critical. Anyway, you go on. You keep going. I'll see if I can find it.
So he shoots. Actually, I was kind of like, really? You shot him in the shoulder? You're like standing like 4 feet in front of him. You could. But anyway, he shoots him. It's enough to he just kind of dissipates.
Yes,
but he's like not dead. He's not dead. He's just kind of
disarmed for a bit or something.
Disarmed for now. Yeah, I guess that's a good word. So then the traveler, he hightails it out of there. He gets in a car. He's speeding away. He's on the highway, and he gets pulled over by another policeman who apparently has not heard on the police radio that this massacre has happened at the
rampant
station.
Death that has occurred.
So he stops him and asks him, "What's your hurry?" So it's the traveler saying, "If you don't let me go in 90 minutes." So he's basically starting the whole thing over again.
Okay, I can't find it. I'm going to be bummed. If anybody knows what the traveler says at the end of the movie, right before he shoots is it San la Muerte? Am I saying that right?
San la Muerte, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to know because he said it and I didn't pay attention to it. And the minute he said it, I was like, ooh, what was that line? I liked that. But yeah, while Ronnie hunts it down, I will tell you guys in an interview that we'll link for you guys a couple of things that we looked at in our show notes. In an interview, Mike Mendez talked about what this movie might mean to the horror genre and Latin cinema on the whole. So he talks about this being the first Latin American horror anthology ever. And he also talks about, that little factoid that we discuss all the time here, that Latinos are a huge part of the audience for genre films. So a story that kind of centers Latinx characters, myths, lore, all of that. It's cool to see that come to the screen. To that point, I've never seen an anthology like this, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, I went in not knowing anything about the movie. Yeah. I liked the tonal shift. So we went from, dark to light to dark to light, so that it wasn't just all one note all the way across.
And maybe that's why, because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think El Vampiro comes right before Nahuales. So, which El Vampiro is so much fun. And then you drop into Nahuales and it's so heavy and you're like, holy crap, we have taken a huge turn. But both really great. So I think on the blood and gore scale, this film really delivers. Would you agree?
Oh yeah,
but in a fun way, like blood and gore in a fun way, not in like emotionally scarring way.
And I think that's kind of the neat thing too about this and the way it was structured is wherever you fall on the horror spectrum, whatever your preferences are with horror, I think there's something for everybody in it. If you're someone who likes more the gore stuff, the blood and guts kind of stuff, there's some of that in there for you. If you're someone that kind of likes kind of like that campy B movie feel,
Yes.
there's some of that in there for you. If you're someone who kind of likes more the suspense aspect of it, there's that in there for you. There's something in there for everybody.
All of these, if they were to be their own films, I would watch them. All of them, I think, could be their own stories, and I would want to see those expanded. Guys, on a previous episode, way back when, I don't remember which episode, I talked about diving into various Frankenstein films that have been done throughout cinema history. So I did want to let everybody know I kickstarted that project for myself this month, and I took a look at 1931's Frankenstein. It's not the oldest Frankenstein movie that's out there, Ron. The oldest on record that I could find is a version that came out in 1910. I didn't look that hard in terms of like whether or not that's even available to watch. So I took a look at this one. This 1931 version is a Laemmle production, so part of the Universal Studios collection of movie monsters. It stars Boris Karloff, who was a Hollywood man of the 20s and 30s, and he would go on to do a bunch of other horror movies in the Universal Studio canon, I guess. So he would go on to do a bunch of other Frankenstein movies, Bride of Frankenstein, stuff like that. He would also do The Mummy. Too many horror movies to possibly list, but top notes, I thought it was excellent. I think that I will definitely add this to my annual Halloween rotation. It's totally a film I can put on at any time. If for no other reason than the fashions, and I'll get to that later. Things to know that I thought were interesting. Boris Karloff, Veronica, was only like at most 5'11", but in taking on this role of the monster in Frankenstein, I didn't take a whole lot of research into what his costume entailed. I know it entailed like boots that added maybe like an additional 4 to 5 inches of height for him. The makeup and the costuming and the physicality of his movements on screen, drastically taller, and just the fact that he was navigating scenes in this costume, this pitiful creature that was never meant to be here, was never supposed to be here, and is only here for a very violent, brief period. It's like a horror tragedy. The fashions, Ron. Dr. Frankenstein has a fiance. Go and Google her wedding dress in this movie. It is freaking gorgeous. And every time she moves across the screen with her 1930s veil, Ron, it looks so awesome. And I wrote down like, I want to have a 1930s wedding veil. I have nowhere to wear it, but I thought it was great. I will occasionally be taking on other Frankenstein films that have come through the ages. So if anyone has recommendations on particular ones that I should look at, definitely let me know. I wanted us to sort of wrap up our episode talking a little bit about favorites of the year. So if you think back on the films that we've looked at this year, what was your favorite, or what were some of your favorites? It can be more than one.
What was the funny one with the three ladies?
Phenomena.
I liked that one. Mm-hmm. And then I also liked Rhett.
Yeah.
So those would be like my top two. And no. Gosh, it's hard. It probably depends on my mood of the day, but like in my top three, and they can so my number one is the Devil's Backbone. And then 2 and 3 will kind of like flip-flop between Phenomena and Wreck. And then Satanic Hispanics, I think, would be in that top 5.
Yeah.
Because I did enjoy that one.
Yeah, I liked, and this is in no particular order. This is not an order of like first, best. First is not best necessarily here, but the one that I still think about all the time is that La Arona, that Jairo Bustamante's La Arona. I thought that was a really interesting film. Our list is probably similar, because I also liked El Espinazo del Diablo, and then I can't remember. Phenomena was also fun.
La Huesera
was that one was another one that was good, like classically scary, in terms of like you're legitimately freaked out watching this movie. Veronica was also a good one. And, Ron and I, in our hunt for movies, that Sister Death follow-up movie, which I think is serving as like a prequel to Veronica. So yes. Veronica came out whenever it came out. I forget where. I think it was like our first or second episode, guys. So go take a look. Second episode. In 2023, Netflix has released Sister Death, which is kind of, I think, slated to be kind of a prequel to Veronica. So we are going to definitely be looking at that one in 2024, because we were both very interested in wanting to learn more about her story.
Her backstory.
Yeah. But I mean, Veronica too was another one that was sort of like good, classically scary. Mm-hmm. What are some of your hopes in terms of what we do next year? I was thinking it might be fun to try and hunt down some good like sci-fi horror. I haven't come across it too much so far, but it's like if you think of like some of like the American sci-fi horror films, did you ever see, what is it, Event Horizon? Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called? Yeah. You saw it? You
Long
saw
time
it,
ago.
Veronica?
I don't say I can remember
See, I
much
won't
about
see it because it just looks, what little I know, what I have seen of it looks so graphic, man. I can't believe you saw it.
Yeah, there's not a lot about the movie that I remember.
It's like Hellraiser I won't
In
watch
terms of
because I
plot.
feel like that one is also just like unnecessarily brutally graphic, and I can't do it.
I think one thing that I have learned, I think I probably always knew it, but this podcast has kind of helped crystallize for me, is that I'm one that, I mean, I enjoy horror movies and I like jump scares, but I think I like leaning more towards the B movie, campy, don't take it so seriously kind of horror movie. But yeah, hopefully in 2024 we can, kind of like Satanic Hispanics, kind of tonally shift, alternate between light and dark, and
Light and dark, yeah.
the heavy stuff that leaves you depressed or disturbed, and balancing it out with the stuff that just kind of makes you laugh.
We will be coming back to you, I think, January 8th. So we will not see you, or you will not hear from us before the new year. So happy new year ahead of time. But it is our plan to do a book club episode on Piñata by Leopoldo Gaut. That's what we're reading right now. We hope you're reading it along with us. I'm enjoying it. I have just also been waylaid by other things going on in my schedule.
It's a busy time of year.
It's a busy time of year. So I have not made much progress in it.
Even when I was reading 13, 15 books a month, I would never get that done in December just because holidays, it just would always tend to slow down.
We're going to aim to do book club episode January 22nd, which means January 8th. When we come back, we will be talking about 2023's Sister Death. Is that even the name of the movie? Were we just calling it Sister Death because that's what we know it's about? No, yeah, Sister Death 2023, available on Netflix. So please go watch that movie in time for you to tune in to us on January 8th. Guys, before we say goodbye and all that stuff, I do want to let you know, part of what we are wanting to do as we wrap up our first year podcasting, you're going to hear, after we say our goodbyes, you're going to hear a little clip that's just going to string together a bunch of some fun moments from Ronnie and I over the past 6 months that we've been doing this, or close to 6 months. So please stay tuned.
Just wish everybody a good end to 2023.
Yes, and thank you so much for being part of this with us, guys, and for joining us on this journey. It's been so much. I'm having so much fun. I know Ronnie's having so much fun. So we're so grateful to those of you who have found us in 2023. Do us a huge favor and share us with your friends and fam and spooky-minded folk in 2024. Let's keep growing. Let's keep doing this and building our community. And I guess that's it. So
be the bat.
Be the bat.
And we will see you guys on the other side.
Huesera? Okay.
Yeah. If you cut a wide swath around the romance section at the bookstore as though it was ground zero for Ebola and the bubonic plague.
Are you done? Because you can't do stuff like that.
I'm just all over the place today.
I have notes and I have a cocktail, so saddle up. We're going for it.
I sink right into the world. I'm fully invested in it.
You know what scene I'm talking about, where she's
Yes.
She looks through the peephole and there's the entity, and you see the head crack. And I was just no. And then she opens the door, and I was like, oh my God.
We always try to cast out that the people to fear are outside, when really the monsters are in here with us. Not satanic worshippers, right?
Not satanic worshippers, but they cook for them. I'm all about free food and free drink. Scream Sister is a Nest production hosted by me, Valerie, and Veronica. Editing by me. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review.